It was supposed to be just another peaceful night in Cheshire, Connecticut, a town where families felt safe, where life was simple and sweet. But on July 23, 2007, the Petit family's home turned into a house of nightmares. Darkness crept in, not just through the night sky, but through the acts of two men who carried nothing but evil in their hearts. A home invasion, a robbery. Those were the original plans of the two men. But what happened inside that house went far beyond theft. It became a tale of terror, cruelty, and unthinkable violence. A mother and her two daughters would never see the sunrise again. A father, beaten and bleeding, barely clung to life. The family's home was set ablaze, their screams swallowed by the flames. How did a simple grocery store trip seal their fate? What could drive two men to commit such horrors? And the biggest question of all, how did one man survive when all hope was lost? The answers will shake you to your core. The following content may be disturbing to some viewers as it discusses sensitive topics related to assault. Proceed with discretion. Welcome to the Crime Series. I am glad to have you join us on another video. Kindly subscribe, like, and share. Let me know where you are watching from. Dr. William Petit, born on September 24, 1956, in Southington, Connecticut, was a respected endocrinologist known for his dedication to his patients. He came from a lineage of hard-working individuals, instilling in him a strong work ethic from an early age. His father, also a physician, was his role model, and from childhood, William aspired to follow in his footsteps. He excelled in school, particularly in the sciences, which led him to Dartmouth College, where he earned his undergraduate degree before attending the University of Pittsburgh School of Medicine. His relentless drive and natural aptitude saw him complete a fellowship at Yale University School of Medicine, after which he began his successful career in endocrinology. In 1985, while working at the Children's Hospital of Pittsburgh, William met Jennifer Hawk, a compassionate and dedicated pediatric nurse. Jennifer was known for her kindness and unwavering commitment to her patients. She had chosen nursing as her profession out of a deep desire to help others, a value she carried throughout her life. Their shared passion for healthcare and community service brought them together, and after a whirlwind romance, they married later that year. The couple settled in Cheshire, Connecticut, a beautiful town known for its quiet, close-knit community. They built a life filled with love, ambition, and a desire to give back. Jennifer balanced her career with raising their two daughters, Haley and Michaela. Haley, the eldest, was born in October 1989. From a young age, she displayed a bright and inquisitive mind. She excelled academically and athletically, participating in cross-country, basketball, and rowing. Her leadership skills shone through, as she became a key figure in school activities and community service projects. She was set to attend Dartmouth College in the fall of 2007, planning to pursue a career in medicine like her father. Michaela, born in November 1995, was the family's gentle soul. She had a deep love for cooking and gardening, often helping her mother in the kitchen and working alongside her father in the yard. She was deeply empathetic and always put others before herself. Despite being younger than Haley, Michaela was mature beyond her years, looking up to her sister with admiration and striving to follow in her footsteps. When Jennifer was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, Michaela stepped in to help, showing remarkable care and dedication for someone so young. She had already started making plans to take over Haley's multiple sclerosis fundraising initiative, renaming it Michaela's Miracle. The Petit family was widely respected in their community, known for their generosity and involvement in charitable causes. However, beneath the serene surface of Cheshire lurked an unseen darkness. Not far from the Petit home, two individuals were leading vastly different lives. Stephen Hayes, a man with a long history of criminal behavior, and Joshua Komisarjevsky, a career burglar with a troubled past, had spent years entangled in a cycle of crime and incarceration. Both men had recently been released on parole and were looking for their next opportunity. Their paths would soon cross with the Petit family in a way that would alter history forever. Stephen Hayes, born in 1963, had a troubled upbringing marked by instability and brushes with the law. Raised in a broken home, he experienced neglect and dysfunction from an early age. His family struggled financially, and he often moved between different residences. From his teenage years, Hayes exhibited signs of delinquency, engaging in petty theft and substance abuse. He dropped out of high school and became involved in a cycle of crime, struggling with drug addiction, particularly crack cocaine. His criminal record included multiple convictions for burglary and larceny. Despite multiple incarcerations, he failed to reintegrate into society, often resorting to criminal behavior to support his addictions. Hayes's interactions with the criminal justice system were frequent, with his longest stint in prison stemming from a theft-related offense. While incarcerated, he participated in rehabilitation programs, but these interventions failed to produce lasting change. In 2006, he was paroled and placed in a halfway house, where he met Joshua Komisarjevsky. The two men bonded over their shared criminal pasts and discussed potential schemes to make money, ultimately leading to the Cheshire home invasion. Hayes had a daughter from a previous relationship, and although he maintained some contact with her, his role as a father was inconsistent due to his lifestyle and legal troubles. He struggled to maintain stable employment, often working odd jobs but quickly losing them due to his erratic behavior and substance abuse. Joshua Komisarjevsky was born on August 10, 1980, in Connecticut. He was adopted at 2 weeks old by Benedict and Jude Komisarjevsky, a well-respected couple known for their deep religious beliefs and their commitment to raising children in a disciplined and structured environment. Benedict was the grandson of the famous Russian theatrical director Fyodor Komisarjevsky, and Jude was a devoted mother who homeschooled Joshua for much of his early life. Despite being raised in a relatively stable household, Joshua exhibited troubling behaviors from a young age. His adoptive parents noted his difficulty with impulse control and his tendency to manipulate situations to his advantage. He was reportedly hyper-intelligent and exhibited an early fascination with breaking into places undetected. However, his childhood was marred by allegations of abuse, both emotional and sexual. It was later revealed that he had been sexually abused by someone within his family, contributing to deep-seated psychological trauma that would influence his later criminal behavior. As a teenager, Joshua began engaging in criminal activities, primarily burglary. His method was unique. He would break into homes while the residents were asleep, not to steal valuables, but to observe them. He enjoyed the thrill of violating their sense of security without their knowledge. Over time, this behavior escalated. He started committing more traditional burglaries, stealing items from homes in and around Cheshire. By 14, he had already developed a reputation as a highly skilled and methodical burglar. In 2002, at the age of 22, Komisarjevsky was arrested and charged with 12 counts of burglary. His defense attorneys painted him as a troubled but non-violent offender, and despite the prosecution's efforts to argue for a harsher sentence, he was ultimately given 9 years in prison with 6 years of special parole. His sentencing judge described him as a calculated, cold-blooded predator due to his habit of breaking into homes while the occupants were inside. Despite his criminal record, Joshua was paroled in April 2007 after serving 5 years. His release was controversial because, under Connecticut law, the parole board should have received the full transcript of his sentencing hearing, which detailed his predatory tendencies. However, due to error, the board did not review the document and thus failed to recognize the true extent of his criminal inclinations. Had they been aware of his past behaviors, it is likely that his parole would have been denied. Following his release, Joshua moved back to Cheshire, where he attempted to reintegrate into society. He started dating 18-year-old Caroline Messel, a young woman who was unaware of his extensive criminal past. The two became serious quickly, and Joshua began expressing dreams of marrying her and starting a family. However, Caroline's father was deeply suspicious of Joshua and actively tried to prevent the relationship from progressing. He believed that Joshua, a convicted criminal in his mid-20s, was taking advantage of his young daughter. On July 22, 2007, Jennifer Hawk Petit and her 11-year-old daughter Michaela visited a local stop-and-shop grocery store in Cheshire, Connecticut, to pick up ingredients for dinner. It was a seemingly ordinary summer afternoon, but unbeknownst to them, their every move was being watched by Joshua Komisarjevsky. Komisarjevsky, 26 at the time, was lurking in the parking lot, observing shoppers. He had a history of stalking victims, carefully selecting homes that appeared affluent and easily accessible. When he spotted Jennifer and Michaela, something about them caught his attention. He would later claim it was their upper-middle-class appearance and the perceived vulnerability of the two that led him to follow them. As Jennifer and Michaela left the grocery store, Komisarjevsky discreetly followed them in his car, trailing their vehicle back to their residence on Sorghum Mill Drive. It was a quiet, beautiful neighborhood, one where crimes of this nature were virtually unheard of. After memorizing their address, Komisarjevsky returned to his home and contacted his accomplice, Stephen Hayes. The two had been discussing committing a home invasion to make quick money, and Komisarjevsky suggested the petite home as their target. It was not just the potential wealth inside that intrigued him. There was something deeper, more sinister. Investigators would later suggest that Michaela's presence played a disturbing role in his fixation on this particular household. Their strategy was to break into the house under cover of darkness, tie up the family, and steal whatever cash and valuables they could find. Hayes was eager to act, sending messages to Komisarjevsky expressing his impatience, stating, "I'm chomping at the bit to get started. Need a margarita soon." Komisarjevsky assured him that the plan was still on, responding, "Yes, I'm putting the kid to bed. Hold your horses." Hayes, growing restless, replied, "Dude, the horses want to get loose." Hours later, as the Petit family settled into their nightly routines, their fates had already been sealed. Michaela had just finished cooking the pasta dinner she had planned for the family. Haley, the eldest daughter, had returned from a beach trip with friends, while Jennifer and Bill Petit relaxed, unaware that they had been marked for unspeakable violence. The night progressed, and Hayes drove to Cheshire to meet Komisarjevsky. Before heading to the Petit residence, they made a stop at a local gas station where Hayes purchased 2 cans of gasoline. This act would later be seen as a key indication of premeditation, as it ultimately played a crucial role in the crime's tragic conclusion. By 2 a.m. on July 23rd, the two men were parked near the Petit home, their adrenaline surging as they prepared to execute their plan. Komisarjevsky, wearing dark clothing, experienced in breaking into homes undetected, easily found an entry point, a basement door left unlocked. Once inside, he moved stealthily through the house, identifying the locations of the family members. He discovered Dr. William Petit asleep on a couch in the sunroom. Without hesitation, Komisarjevsky grabbed a baseball bat that was already in the house and bludgeoned Dr. Petit repeatedly over the head, leaving him unconscious and bleeding profusely. He and Hayes then tied his wrists and ankles together with plastic zip ties and rope before dragging him to the basement, where he was left bound to a support pole. With Dr. Petit incapacitated, Komisarjevsky and Hayes moved through the home, entering the bedrooms of Jennifer and the girls. They forcibly restrained Jennifer, Haley, and Michaela, tying them to their respective bedposts with their wrists and ankles bound. Pillowcases were placed over their heads to prevent them from seeing their attackers. Despite their reassurances that they only wanted money and would not hurt anyone, the men's actions grew increasingly sadistic and terrifying. After ransacking the house and failing to find a substantial amount of cash, the two intruders discovered bank statements indicating that the Petits had approximately $30,000 in their accounts. Realizing the potential for a larger payout, they decided to take Jennifer Hawk Petit to a local bank and force her to withdraw money. At around 9 a.m., Hayes drove Jennifer to a Bank of America branch in Cheshire, where she was instructed to withdraw $15,000. Inside the bank, Jennifer did something incredibly brave. She calmly approached the bank teller and, while carrying out the transaction, discreetly alerted the staff that her family was being held hostage. She explained that 2 men were inside her home with her husband and daughters, threatening to kill them if she did not comply. The bank employees immediately called 911, providing details about the situation in real time. Meanwhile, Komisarjevsky remained inside the house with Michaela and Haley. He took a disturbing interest in Michaela, whom he had been watching since the previous night.
As we go into the most intense part of this video, kindly like and subscribe to this channel. It gives me motivation to create more videos. If you love this video and wish to see more, kindly subscribe.
While Hayes was gone with Jennifer, Komisarjevsky sexually assaulted her, later photographing the assault on his cell phone. Back at the bank, the employees remained on the line with the emergency dispatcher, describing Jennifer's demeanor and the urgency of the situation. They noted that she appeared composed but fearful, desperate to ensure the safety of her family. As soon as she left the bank with the cash, law enforcement was dispatched to the Petite home. However, due to uncertainty about the full extent of the threat, police opted to set up a perimeter around the house rather than intervening immediately. Upon returning home with Jennifer, Hayes was shown the explicit photos Komisarjevsky had taken of Michaela. Enraged and emboldened, he turned his violence toward Jennifer, sexually assaulting her on the first floor of the home. Afterward, he strangled her to death. This act marked a significant shift. The criminals now had nothing to lose. At this point, Dr. William Petit, bound in the basement, began regaining consciousness. Despite his severe injuries from being bludgeoned with a baseball bat, he realized he had to act. He managed to free himself from his restraints and escape through the basement hatch, crawling to a neighbor's yard for help. A concerned neighbor immediately called 911, describing the horrific state of the doctor. Unaware of Dr. Petit's escape, Hayes and Komisarjevsky scrambled to cover their tracks. They doused Jennifer's lifeless body and the second floor of the house, including Haley and Michaela, still tied to their beds, with gasoline. Moments later, they set the house on fire. The flames spread rapidly, engulfing the home in thick, toxic smoke. Haley, showing remarkable strength and survival instincts, managed to break free from her restraints. She made it as far as the second-floor hallway before being overcome by the smoke and collapsing at the top of the stairs. Michaela, still tied to her bed, perished in the blaze. As Hayes and Komisarjevsky fled the burning house in the Petit family's car, they were quickly spotted by police surveillance units stationed nearby. The perpetrators attempted to evade capture, but their escape was short-lived. Just a few blocks from the crime scene, they crashed into a police barricade and were immediately surrounded by officers. The apprehension was swift, ensuring that both men were taken into custody without further harm to the community. The escalation of violence had reached its horrific climax, and one of the most tragic crimes in Connecticut history had been committed. As the Cheshire home burned, first responders arrived at the scene, only to be met with an inferno that had already consumed most of the structure. The bodies of Jennifer, Haley, and Michaela Petit were discovered inside, bound and badly burned. Dr. William Petit, despite his injuries, provided a harrowing account of the attack, fueling an immediate and intense police investigation. Authorities swiftly identified Stephen Hayes and Joshua Komisarjevsky as the primary suspects, having apprehended them while they attempted to flee the crime scene. Their immediate arrest and subsequent confessions provided investigators with chilling details of the events that transpired inside the Petit home. The Cheshire Police Department, in conjunction with the Connecticut State Police and federal authorities, meticulously pieced together evidence from the crime scene. Investigators recovered gasoline containers, zip ties, and the perpetrators' cell phones, which contained incriminating text messages exchanged before and during the invasion. Surveillance footage from a local gas station also placed Hayes at the scene purchasing fuel used to start the fire. Interviews with those who knew the perpetrators painted a disturbing portrait of two men with long criminal histories. Komisarjevsky, in particular, had a history of home invasions and had been released on parole despite prior convictions. His diary, later obtained by police, contained unsettling entries about his fascination with breaking into homes and observing sleeping families. Meanwhile, investigators analyzed the timeline of events, including Jennifer Hawk Petit's desperate trip to the bank, where she informed the teller that her family was being held hostage. The bank's quick call to the authorities led to the establishment of a police perimeter around the Petit home. However, law enforcement faced intense scrutiny for their handling of the situation. Critics questioned why officers had not intervened sooner, particularly when it became evident that the victims' lives were in imminent danger. Even as I narrate this, It beats my imagination why the officers thought it wise to remain outside the house despite the tip from the bank. Well, we may never know. Medical examiners determined that Jennifer had been strangled to death, while Haley and Michaela succumbed to smoke inhalation. Forensic analysis also confirmed that Michaela had been sexually assaulted before the fire was set. These findings intensified public outrage and further justified the prosecution's pursuit of the death penalty for both men. As the investigation progressed, the prosecution built a case centered on premeditation, brutality, and the overwhelming physical and forensic evidence against Hayes and Komisarjevsky. The meticulous reconstruction of the crime became instrumental in ensuring justice for the Pettit family. The trial of Stephen Hayes began in September 2010. The prosecution presented overwhelming forensic evidence, including DNA, witness testimonies, and surveillance footage that placed Hayes at the scene. The jury found him guilty on multiple counts, including capital murder, kidnapping, sexual assault, and arson. During the penalty phase, the jury recommended the death sentence, which was formally handed down in December 2010. Joshua Komisarjevsky's trial began in September 2011. His defense attempted to shift the blame onto Hayes, claiming that Komisarjevsky never intended to kill anyone. However, the prosecution provided evidence of Komisarjevsky's role in the sexual assault of young Michaela Petit and his actions in setting the house on fire. He was convicted on all charges and, like Hayes, received a death sentence in December 2011. Despite these sentences, Connecticut abolished the death penalty in 2012, though it was initially not retroactive. In 2015, the Connecticut Supreme Court ruled that the death penalty was unconstitutional, leading to the commutation of all existing death sentences to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. This decision spared both Hayes and Komisarjevsky from execution, ensuring that they would spend the remainder of their lives in prison. Throughout the legal process, Dr. William Petit attended court proceedings, advocating for justice for his family. He expressed disappointment in the abolition of the death penalty, but remained committed to honoring the memory of Jennifer, Haley, and Michaela through his foundation and advocacy efforts. The trials of Hayes and Komisarjevsky left a significant impact on Connecticut's judicial system, prompting discussions on parole reform, sentencing guidelines, and victim advocacy. The case underscored the need for a more effective criminal justice system to prevent similar tragedies in the future. The sole survivor of the Cheshire home invasion, Dr. William Petit, faced unimaginable grief in the aftermath of the tragedy. After the loss of his wife and daughters, he dedicated himself to ensuring their legacy endured. Dr. Petit became an advocate for victims' rights and founded the Petit Family Foundation, which focuses on supporting young people, those affected by violence, and multiple sclerosis research, honoring Jennifer, Haley, and Michaela. The foundation has provided scholarships, supported domestic violence prevention initiatives, and contributed to the medical community, reflecting the values Jennifer upheld as a nurse and educator. Despite his deep sorrow, he found love again and remarried in 2012 to Christine Palouf, a photographer who had been volunteering with his foundation. In 2013, they welcomed a son, William Petit III. His new family has been a source of healing, allowing him to move forward while still preserving the memory of his first family. Dr. Petit also entered politics, successfully running for the Connecticut House of Representatives in 2016, where he served until 2023. During his tenure, he worked on legislative reforms to enhance victim support programs, ensure stricter penalties for violent criminals, and advocate for parole system improvements. His advocacy work continues, ensuring that the memory of his family fuels positive change. What are your thoughts on this case? Do you believe the justice system handled it appropriately? How do you think similar tragedies can be prevented in the future? We'd love to hear from you. Share your thoughts in the comments, and let's discuss the broader implications of this case together. If you found this analysis compelling, consider sharing it with others who might be interested. Your engagement helps keep these important conversations alive.